I spent 2 years saving every extra penny for this trip. $9,400 to give my dad the 60th birthday gift he always dreamed of. A 10-day journey across Japan from the busy streets of Tokyo to the serene temples of Kyoto. I planned it all down to the private tour of Mount Fuji at sunrise. Then came that text from my brother Kevin. One message that shattered everything. I stared at my phone in disbelief, my hands shaking as I read the words that would change our family forever. If you have ever put your heart into something for family only to have it thrown back in your face, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe because this story might give you some ideas about standing up for yourself. My relationship with my dad was always special, even though we grew up without much money. He worked 2 jobs most of my childhood, always coming home exhausted, but never too tired to ask about my day or help with homework. Japan had been his dream since he was a teenager. He had a collection of books about Japanese culture, architecture, and cuisine that he would flip through after long shifts. Sometimes he would point to pictures of cherry blossoms or Mount Fuji and say, "Someday, son, someday we will see this together." I never forgot that promise, even as I grew up, went to college, and eventually found success in the tech industry. While my brother Kevin bounced from job to job, always seeming to land on his feet thanks to my parents bailing him out, I worked my way up steadily. Despite our different paths, Mom and Dad never seemed to notice the contrast. Kevin was always finding himself while I was the responsible one who would be fine no matter what. When Dad's 60th birthday approached, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. He had given me so much, and now I could finally give him something meaningful in return. I had been saving for years, putting aside bonuses and limiting my own expenses. My wife Layla was completely supportive, even though it meant postponing our own vacation plans. "Your dad deserves this," she told me one night, as we looked at luxury hotels in Tokyo. The way his eyes light up whenever Japan comes up in conversation. I cannot wait to see his face when you tell him. Planning the perfect trip became my obsession for 6 solid months. I researched every aspect of Japanese culture that would appeal to Dad. I found a small ryokan in Kyoto where they still practice traditional tea ceremonies. I arranged for a private guide to take us through the bamboo forests. I even tracked down a chef Dad had once seen on a cooking show who had relocated from New York to Tokyo and booked a private dinner at his restaurant. The itinerary was meticulously crafted to include something for everyone. Mom loved gardens, so I scheduled a day at the famous gardens in Kanazawa. Dad was interested in samurai history, so we would visit castles and museums. I even made sure there were opportunities for Kevin to experience the nightlife he enjoyed. Every detail was considered, from transportation between cities to dietary preferences at each restaurant. When I finally revealed the surprise to my parents, Dad was speechless. His eyes filled with tears as he hugged me tightly. Mom kept saying she could not believe I had done this for them. Even Kevin seemed genuinely appreciative, clapping me on the back and saying this was next-level brotherly stuff. For that moment, everything felt perfect. Then Kevin mentioned Jessica. "So, bro, you will love Jessica. She actually studied abroad in Japan for a semester in college. She knows all the cool spots that tourists never see." I had heard about Jessica, of course. She was the newest in a string of girlfriends Kevin had introduced to the family, though this one had lasted longer than most, nearly 6 months. Still, I had never met her, and the trip was planned for our immediate family only. "The reservations are already made for 4 people, I explained carefully. "But we could meet her beforehand, maybe have her give us some recommendations." Kevin's smile faltered slightly, but he nodded. "Yeah, sure. Let us all have dinner next week. You will see she is amazing." The dinner was set for Friday night at an upscale Japanese restaurant, my treat as a prelude to the trip. Layla and I arrived early, followed by my parents. Kevin texted that they were running late, which was typical. When they finally arrived, Jessica made quite an entrance. She wore a cocktail dress that seemed excessive for the occasion, diamonds glittering at her ears and throat. My first impression was that she was trying too hard, but I smiled and stood to greet her. "Finally meeting the successful brother," she said, air kissing my cheek. "Kevin talks about you constantly." Something in her tone made me doubt that whatever Kevin said was entirely complimentary. Throughout dinner, Jessica dominated the conversation, frequently interrupting others to share her expertise on Japan. "The place you booked in Tokyo is so touristy," she commented after I mentioned our hotel. "There are much more authentic neighborhoods. When I lived there, I discovered places most Americans never find." Every detail I shared about the itinerary received similar treatment. The temples I had chosen were overrated. The restaurants were where they send foreigners. Even the timing of our trip was apparently wrong. "Cherry blossom season is the only time to go," she declared, though Dad had specifically mentioned wanting to avoid the crowds of that popular season. As the evening progressed, I noticed how my parents, especially Mom, seemed captivated by Jessica's stories. Dad was quieter, occasionally catching my eye with an unreadable expression. Kevin beamed with pride at every dismissive comment his girlfriend made. While waiting for dessert, I excused myself to use the restroom. As I walked back, I overheard Jessica speaking to Kevin near the bar. "The whole trip sounds boring," she was saying. 10 days of museums and old buildings. I cannot believe they would waste the opportunity to see the real Japan." Kevin nodded sympathetically. "I know, babe. Maybe we can break away from the group sometimes and do our own thing." I returned to the table without letting them know I had heard, but the evening had lost its luster. On the drive home, Layla voiced what I had been feeling. "That girl is trouble," she said firmly. "Did you see how your mom was practically worshipping her, and the way she kept putting down all your plans?" "It will be fine," I assured her, though a knot of unease had formed in my stomach. "Once we are all in Japan, experiencing everything together, it will be different." Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs, but I wanted so badly for this trip to be perfect that I ignored them. The final weeks before the trip were busy with last-minute preparations. I confirmed all our reservations, double-checked flight details, and even learned some basic Japanese phrases I thought would be helpful. I bought small gifts for everyone to open on the flight, things like travel pillows, eye masks, and guidebooks. Layla and I had several conversations about my growing concerns regarding Kevin and Jessica. After the dinner, Kevin had started texting me with suggestions for changing various aspects of the itinerary. Each one clearly came from Jessica, focusing on adding more nightlife and shopping while cutting out cultural experiences. "Just stand your ground," Layla advised. "You put your heart and savings into planning this. They can follow your itinerary or stay home." Mom called frequently, always managing to mention how wonderful Jessica was and how much she knew about Japan. She showed me pictures of these cute little shops we have to visit. Mom gushed during one call. "Maybe you could adjust some of your plans to include them." I politely explained that the itinerary was set and most activities were already paid for, but promised we would have some free time for shopping. This seemed to satisfy her, and I tried to put my worries aside. The Tuesday before our Saturday departure, I was at work finishing a project so I could take the time off without worry. My phone buzzed with a text from Kevin. Thinking it was another question about the trip, I opened it immediately. "Hey bro, just wanted to let you know we decided Jessica should take your spot on the trip. She is more fun and knows more about Japan from her study abroad. Mom and Dad agreed it makes more sense. You can join next time." I read the message 3 times, certain I had misunderstood. My hands felt numb as I called Kevin, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried Mom next. "Oh, honey," she said, when she answered, her voice overly bright. "Did Kevin tell you the new plan? Jessica is just so knowledgeable about Japan and you work so much anyway. You would probably be on your laptop half the time. This way you can focus on your job and we will take lots of pictures for you." "Mom," I said, my voice barely steady, "I planned this trip. I paid for this trip. It is Dad's birthday present from me. And it is still your gift," she insisted. "We will all be thinking of you while we are there. Jessica says she knows this amazing restaurant where they cook the food right at your table." As she continued talking, I hung up and immediately called Dad. He did not answer. I sent him a text asking him to call me urgently. No response. I left work early, my mind reeling. The drive home was a blur, and I nearly ran a red light at one intersection. When I finally pulled into our driveway, Layla was already home working on her laptop at the kitchen table. One look at my face told her something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked, standing immediately. I could barely get the words out. When I showed her Kevin's text, her expression changed from concern to fury. "They cannot do this," she said firmly. "Call the travel agent right now and tell them only you are authorized to make changes to the reservation." "But it is Dad's birthday trip," I said weakly. "I still want him to experience Japan." Layla took my hands. "Listen to me. This is not just about the trip anymore. This is about years of them taking advantage of you. Years of Kevin getting whatever he wants while you do all the work. If you do not stand up now, they will never stop." We decided to sleep on it before making any decisions. Maybe things would seem clearer in the morning. I sent a brief text to Kevin. "We need to talk about this. Call me tomorrow." He never called. Instead, I woke up to a notification from social media. Mom had posted photos from a pre-Japan celebration dinner at their house. The whole family was there, including Jessica, who was wearing a traditional Japanese kimono. The caption read, "So excited for our family adventure. Thank you to our travel expert Jessica for already making this trip special. Number family vacation, number Japan, 2023, number birthday trip." I scrolled through the comments feeling sick. Relatives were commenting about how wonderful the trip would be, many assuming I would be there. Jessica had responded to several comments talking about my first family trip with the Walkers and how she had completely revamped the boring itinerary. Dad was tagged in the photos but had not commented. He sat at the head of the table in the pictures smiling, but something about his expression seemed off to me. Still, he had made his choice by his silence. That was the moment everything changed for me. 2 years of saving, 6 months of planning, a lifetime of being the reliable son who never complained, all thrown aside for the girlfriend of 6 months. The family dinner that I had not even been invited to was the final straw. Layla found me staring at the photos, my coffee gone cold beside me. "What do you want to do?" she asked softly. For the first time in our relationship, I felt a cold clarity replace my usual desire to keep the peace. "I want them to learn what happens when they take me for granted." We spent the morning talking through everything, not just about the trip, but about years of family dynamics. Layla reminded me of countless instances where Kevin had received praise for minimal effort while my achievements were expected. Times when family resources were diverted to bail him out of trouble, while I was told to be understanding because Kevin needs more help. During our conversation, I remembered something important that I had almost forgotten in the shock of recent events. 5 years ago, when I first started doing well financially, I had secretly bought the apartment building where my parents and Kevin lived. The previous owner had been planning to sell to developers who would have raised the rent beyond what my family could afford. I had purchased it through a corporate entity and kept the same property management company to maintain the illusion that nothing had changed. I had even subsidized their rent without their knowledge, allowing them to pay well below market value in an increasingly expensive neighborhood. Kevin had his own apartment in the same building, and I now recalled notification emails from the property manager that he had been late with rent for the past 3 months. I had ignored them, assuming he would catch up eventually. Now I wondered how many other aspects of their lives were actually dependent on my quiet intervention. After several hours of discussion, I reached a decision. I replied to Kevin's text with just 2 words, "Got it." Then I started making calls. First was the travel agency that had helped arrange the trip. I explained that I needed to cancel everything: flights, hotels, tours, restaurant reservations, all of it. The agent was surprised and reminded me of the substantial cancellation fees for such last-minute changes. I told her I understood and was willing to pay them. For some of the non-refundable bookings, I requested that the reservations be transferred to alternate dates for just Layla, Dad, and myself later in the year. The agent was confused but accommodating. Next, I called the property management company for the apartment building. I had never revealed my ownership to them either, dealing with everything through my lawyer. Now I explained that I wanted to make some changes, new locks on both my parents' and Kevin's apartments to be changed the day they left for their trip, and new lease terms to be delivered upon their return, reflecting the actual market rate for the units triple what they currently paid. I contacted my bank and transferred funds to create a separate account designated for a future trip with just Dad. Whatever happened with the rest of the family, I still wanted to fulfill my promise to him someday if he was willing. Finally, I set up a series of financial tripwires that would trigger while they were away. Nothing illegal, just the removal of the invisible support I had been providing for years. Kevin's credit cards, which I had discovered were actually on my parents' accounts, would hit their limits. The subsidized utilities would revert to normal billing. Small things that would add up quickly. The next few days passed in a strange calm. My family made no further attempts to contact me, apparently assuming I had accepted their decision without protest. Their social media feeds filled with excited posts about the upcoming trip. Jessica posted daily countdowns with comments about how she was saving this family from tourist traps and showing them the real Japan. On Saturday morning, Mom posted a picture from the airport. All of them with their luggage. Dad holding a birthday balloon, Kevin with his arm around Jessica. The caption read, "Off on our adventure, Japan, here we come. Thank you to our wonderful son for making this possible." The irony might have been funny if it was not so painful. Within hours, the frantic calls began. First from Kevin, then Mom, then even Jessica. I let them all go to voicemail. The messages started confused, became angry, then desperate. "The airline says our tickets are canceled. There must be some mistake. The hotel has no record of our reservation. Call me as soon as possible." "What the hell did you do? Fix this now. We are stranded at the airport." "Your father is very upset." "How could you be so selfish?" Only Dad sent a single text. What happened? I did not reply to any of them. They managed to book return flights home based on the angry messages that continued to arrive. I stayed at a hotel for the weekend, not wanting to be home when they returned. Layla went to visit her sister, supportive of my decision, but not wanting to be caught in the crossfire. On Monday morning, I received a call from the property manager. He reported that the new locks had been installed as requested and the new lease terms had been delivered. He sounded uncomfortable as he described my family's reaction. "Your brother became quite irate, sir. He threatened legal action." "Your mother was crying. Your father just asked for your contact information, which of course I could not provide without your permission." I thanked him and assured him he had done exactly as instructed. Then I waited. The real aftermath began to unfold over the next few days. I returned home but ignored the constant calls and messages. Instead, I monitored the situation from a distance. Kevin was the first to face consequences. His credit card was declined at his regular coffee shop, according to a frustrated post he made online. Then at a restaurant, then at a gas station. Each time his complaints on social media grew more indignant, never once considering that his financial house of cards was finally collapsing. Mom called my office so many times that my assistant eventually blocked her number. Her voicemails swung from tearful pleas to angry accusations to attempts at guilt. "After all we have done for you" featured prominently, though she never specified what exactly that entailed. Through it all, Dad remained mostly silent. He sent one more text. "I would like to talk when you are ready." 10 days after their non-trip, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Dad standing alone on the porch, looking older and more tired than I had ever seen him. "May I come in?" he asked quietly. I stepped aside to let him enter. We sat in the living room, an uncomfortable silence stretching between us. "The apartment," he finally said. "It is yours, is not it? You bought it years ago." I nodded. "And the discounted rent. The utilities that never seemed to go up despite rates increasing everywhere else." Another nod. He sighed heavily. "How much have you been doing for us that we never knew about?" "Enough," I replied simply. Dad ran a hand over his face. "I had no idea about the trip, son. About Jessica taking your place. Kevin and your mother presented it as your idea that you were too busy with work and thought Jessica would be a better guide. And you believed that. That I would spend 2 years saving for a trip, 6 months planning it to the last detail, only to give it away at the last minute." "I did not want to believe it," he admitted. "But Kevin can be very convincing, and your mother. Well, she has always had a blind spot where he is concerned." "I should have called you directly. I should have questioned it more." "Yes, you should have." I agreed, not making this easy for him. When we got to the airport and nothing was booked, I knew something was wrong. The way Kevin and your mother immediately blamed you, instead of considering that there might be consequences to their actions. He shook his head. It was a wake-up call for me, one that was probably long overdue. Our conversation was interrupted by another knock, this one more like pounding. I opened the door to find Kevin, his face flushed with anger. "You ruined everything," he shouted, pushing past me into the house. The trip, the apartment, my credit score? Who the hell do you think you are? Dad stood up. Kevin, that is enough. No, it is not. Kevin turned on him. He is sabotaging my entire life because he is jealous of me and Jessica. Jealous, I could not help but laugh. Of what exactly? Your inability to pay your own rent, your girlfriend who has been lying about her time in Japan, that stopped him. What are you talking about? I checked Kevin. Jessica never studied abroad in Japan. She spent 2 weeks there on a guided tour last year. Everything she claimed to know comes from travel blogs and Google. I found her old social media posts. Kevin's face went from red to white. That is not true. She showed me pictures. Stock photos and images from other people's trips. Did you ever wonder why she is never in any of the personal photos she showed you? Dad stepped between us. Both of you stop. This is not helping. No, Dad, I said firmly. This needs to be said. For years I have watched Kevin manipulate this family. I have silently supported all of you financially, while he gets praised for simply showing up. I planned a once-in-a-lifetime trip for your birthday, and instead of standing up for me, you all replaced me with someone who has been lying to all of you. Kevin started to protest, but Dad held up his hand. He is right, Kevin. We have enabled your behavior for too long. Both your mother and I have failed both of you in different ways. He turned to me. We failed you by taking your responsibility and success for granted, by not acknowledging your achievements. And we failed Kevin by never holding him accountable, by always providing a safety net that prevented him from growing up. The three of us talked for hours that day. Really talked, perhaps, for the first time in our adult lives. Mom joined later, reluctant at first to acknowledge her role in the family dynamics, but eventually seeing how her favoritism had damaged all of us. I did not immediately forgive them, nor did I immediately restore the financial support I had been providing. Real change would require more than a single conversation. Over the following months, our family began a healing process. Kevin, faced with actual consequences for perhaps the first time, started taking responsibility for his own life. He found a stable job, broke up with Jessica after confirming she had indeed lied about her experiences, and began repaying his debts. Mom struggled the most with the new family dynamic, often slipping back into old patterns of making excuses for Kevin or expecting me to fix problems. But with Dad finally setting boundaries as well, she slowly adapted. 6 months after the trip that never happened, I approached Dad with a new proposal. A smaller, more intimate journey to Japan. Just the three of us, Dad, Layla, and me. He accepted with tears in his eyes, promising this time would be different. And it was. We spent 2 weeks exploring Japan together, experiencing everything I had originally planned. Dad was an enthusiastic traveler, soaking in every temple visit, every meal, every moment of the culture he had dreamed about for so long. One night, as we sat watching the sunset from a hillside overlooking Kyoto, Dad turned to me. "Thank you," he said simply. "Not just for this trip, but for the wake-up call. Sometimes the people who love us the most are the ones who need to show us our own failures. It took losing everything for me to see what I had been doing to you all these years. It has been just over a year since that conversation on the hillside in Japan. Our family looks different now, functions differently. We communicate more honestly, respect boundaries, and acknowledge both achievements and failures more openly. Kevin has grown in ways I never expected, taking responsibility not just for his finances, but for his actions and their impact on others. He and I have begun rebuilding our relationship as equals, not as the responsible brother and the entitled one. Mom has had the hardest journey, having to confront decades of unbalanced parenting. She still struggles sometimes, but she tries, and that effort means more than perfect success would. Dad and I talk weekly, our bond stronger for having been tested and having survived. He has become an advocate for me within the family, quick to recognize old patterns when they emerge and address them directly. As for me, I learned that sometimes the most important boundaries are the hardest to establish, especially with family. That my worth is not determined by how much I give or how little I ask for in return. That standing up for myself is not selfish but necessary. The money I spent on that original trip was never really about the trip itself. It was an investment in a dream, in a relationship, in a future where my contributions would be valued. In the end, though not in the way I expected, that investment paid off. Not in Instagram photos from Tokyo or souvenir magnets on the refrigerator, but in something far more valuable, a family that finally sees me. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to teach someone how to value you? Share your story in the comments. And if this journey of standing up for yourself resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to demand respect even from family. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to show them the truth even when it hurts.